Hello to everyone. I won't be exaggerating when I say that we are in a historic moment, and I'm very glad to host the chair of the Histadrut here, and now it's 11, because had we done it earlier, that would have been a different age in Israel, because the Supreme Court ruling opens up a new age here in the state of Israel. The public importance, I would say the strategic importance, is one of the major reasons we invited Mr. Arnon Bar-David, chair of the General Organization of Workers in Israel, to speak. It's not the first time he's been invited to speak. I'm going to try and be very brief. We will begin, of course, with this historic ruling that relates to the fact that Israel is in the midst of this time of distress and war. There's no exit strategy. We're just getting more involved and mired in the mud. And what usually we're interested in is security, but when you are dealing with real security, all of these other matters rise to the top. That 9 judges today with 0 opposition demands that there should be an enlistment and mandatory enlistment demand on all citizens of Israel, and the ultra-Orthodox are included in that, is a major decision. And I now refer us to you, sir, Mr. Bar-David. Good morning to everybody. Good morning, Amos. Well, this is a historic time, not just now, not just recently. This is historic in every parameter. I remember last year, we were in a different hall here, but last year's conference, and I see a direct line from last year to this very moment today. I think the writing was on the wall, as it were. We were talking a year ago about the fact that we are on the brink of a time, a terrible time. Everybody knew it. Everybody saw it coming. That was a year ago. That was after the Gallant scandal and the attempts for legislative reforms, judicial reforms, and we saw that there was a real dangerous event here, and we were talking about it at the time, and it happened. The attack of October 7 is a direct outcome of the last year and a half of just derelict conduct of this government in every level and parameter. We're talking about that. We'll talk about that later. This has happened, this behavior by the government, and that's what's so painful. The most painful to me is the polarity in Israeli society, the fact that there's a rift, the fact that everybody's in their own camp, the feeling that half of this nation, or even more, understands that something terrible is happening and nothing is being done. Terrible feeling, and nobody stopped it. And now we have to get out of this. We have to look for decisions. We have to make decisions. And is anybody making a decision? Nobody's making decisions. Look, guys, I'm not the Prime Minister. Please, I am not the Prime Minister. I don't make the government's decision, and not at us. We ask what we can do as a public. Wait, this is a historic moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we should hear what head of the Histadrut has to say. But the context today requires that we listen to him for a moment. Please don't interrupt. It doesn't help anything. In the reverse. This is a leader. Arnon is a leader. We should hear what he has to say, specifically now on the basis of his own personal appraisals and assessments, particularly in what's happened in the last few years. This disruption doesn't help anyone, so please, and if we could please take down these signs, please. It is unnecessary. It's okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's all okay, but I just want to say to everyone, because I embrace you all, I do. And I am a person of the state of Israel. I'm one of everyone. But I'm not the Prime Minister. Keep that in mind. I am chairman of the Histadrut. If you look back historically, never the Histadrut was required in any war, in any operation, anything. Was never required to operate force in state matters. We are the Histadrut. We're not the Prime Minister's office. So please, we saw this in the Gallant scandal. I don't have a lot of armaments in my toolbox. I don't have arsenal here. I am head of the Histadrut. Gallant was a cosmic shift. It was a one-time event. If there's such a one-time event yet again, we'll see. But at the moment, we are trying in this time of war, in this economical state with strikes. I mean, there's so many. We're not going to bring back the hostages through this, and we're not going to bring down this government through strikes. We will have to look to other alternatives, other manners, in order to be able to really use the Histadrut's power where it can be effective. Don't expect me to strike and put a general strike, because the Histadrut is one of the last organized entities in the state of Israel that is functioning and working. Don't just put pressure on me for no reason. I know what I need to do with my organization. And by the way, I know where I'm taking my organization. I said this in September, just a month before, on Rosh Hashanah holidays, before the war. I know where I'm supposed to go. I know where I'm taking this organization. I don't know where the Prime Minister is taking his leadership of the State of Israel. You can give that as a caption shop, because he's taken us to the very precipice of doom. So please, patience. This is a time to make decisions. We'll talk about the enlistment of the ultra-Orthodox sector, and that really is the trigger on which everything lies here at the moment, and everything may explode and blow up. I understand the context, but I think what we need to do now, and I've been saying this for a long time, what we need to do is immediately determine an election day. We have to determine a date for elections. What is unclear here? I don't understand what's unclear. There was election. We had an election campaign for on discussions. There were Gallant and Bibi Netanyahu discussions. We knew how to have election campaigns over everything. Now we kind of an early election because of what? Because it's a war. Look, let's have elections at the end of the year. Fine. But let's calm down and settle down the public. The public of Israel must be assured, and the Prime Minister has to understand he is Prime Minister of all of Israel and not only half of Israel. And the Prime Minister has to understand and see the public that protests and is hurting and is looking for alternatives. And the only way to bring us down, a moment of calm, and give us some respite, is to determine a date for early elections. What we'll do, it will calm things down immediately. Secondly, we can have a trade deal for our hostages finally. We can bring back displaced people to their homes. We can start rehabilitating Israel. We must start to recover as a country, because we in Israel are going from one terrible situation to the next, and we can't see an end in sight. And now, let me say, in regards to the Supreme Court, the court ruling in regards to the draft of the ultra-Orthodox to the army, we have to look at this ruling. Obviously, we are all very grateful to hear of this news, and we very much, of course, appreciate people who study Bible studies and Torah studies. But what we need, really, are soldiers, and what we need to build our strength in the IDF, and what we need is to give the IDF everything it needs in order to maintain us and our security. The state of Israel is surrounded by enemies. Who is that? Danny yelling out at me? Danny, please. Please, Danny. That's not related. Gallant was a one-time deal. I talked about it. Was a very important moment. I'm sorry, I can't hear the person from the audience. Do you want to, I mean, really interrupt me like you do everybody? That's not a... Look, yes, chair of the Histadrut has a tough life. I understand. I'm going to be attacked from the left and the right. I'm going to be attacked. Why don't you declare a general strike? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Look, I manage a huge organization of of hundreds of thousands of people in a very difficult situation, the worst situation I have known in my career. We're doing what we can responsibly. I meet with everybody, with all of the protest groups, with the families of the hostages, unlike what Danny is saying. No, we have met with everybody, are in contact with everybody, and we are trying to maintain Israel's economy and to see it continue to function and have enough money for this country to manage the war. Now, in regards to the court ruling, of course, this is a happy moment in the sense that this is a good decision, but that's the name of the game. How do we deal with this situation? We have to look at the exact ruling of the court and what they intend to do specifically, because the government may try to obfuscate and go around this court ruling and continue with the ridiculous numbers that it spouts. 1,000, 2,000 soldiers, their draft, ridiculous number. I believe that the enlistment law brings us back all together, religious, secular, right, left. We all must demand from the government to enforce this court ruling, so the ultra-Orthodox young men that can be enlisted, so that the IDF be a place of equality, of service, be a service of equality, and also to build the force of the State of Israel. And therefore this court ruling is historic, is important, and on this foundation we will see, Amos, how we move forward, because maybe it will be a situation of protest that will cross boundaries, and we'll see what the government does and how it responds after the court ruling. Danny, you're constantly disrupting. I allowed you to talk. We've tried to. I'm really asking you to stop interrupting. When you look at this very complex security situation and the fact that you are connected to it in every level, how do you see the economic, strategic horizon of Israel in regards to the kind of leadership we have, or in fact do not have in Israel at the moment? It could be a very dismal future. On the other hand, we may have opportunities. It depends on leadership, the government, and the kind of decisions that are made. How do you see it concretely now, and how you prepare for it as head of the Histadrut? That's a big question, a broad question. When the war started, really on the second day, I had one major goal: to see that the economy keeps running, that factories keep working, that our security needs are met through, that municipalities keep functioning, food keep flowing, the trains keep running, that the ports keep operating. I toured one place to the next to make sure everything is in fact operational, that the economy is functioning, that the State of Israel can manage this wartime economy. And I think that in this case, I see the economic data, I see the numbers, and in terms of the management of monies, collection of monies, we are doing okay. The problem is the government is spending this money in a wrong way, and that's really my major complaint, and that's where I have a conflict with this government. I mean, knowing that you are giving $700 million in 2023 budget surpluses, instead of putting it in the war effort, you put it in coalition funds. I mean, Amos? We are all, our hearts are with the hostages, and I call on the government to agree to a trade deal so that we can also bring the war to an end. I understand this is maybe not the most popular opinion. We have to bring the hostages on. The Hamas and Gaza aren't going anywhere. They're going to stay. So we will have to deal with them for many years to come. They're not going anywhere. They have the border with Egypt. They're not going to come work for us. That's it. It's over. So we can, right now, pause the war. We can do what needs to be done and with this agreement to bring the hostages home first, and to bring our northern border to a situation calm, and do the big deal that we are all waiting for with the Saudis. And the next round with the Hamas will happen, and then maybe we'll come to terms with them and deal with them later. We all understand that. We'll have to deal with the Hamas at some point. Friends, I said initially, I'm not the Prime Minister. There is a Prime Minister. I am chairman of the Histadrut. I have done and will continue to do everything I can in order to make this reality that I've described possible. If you give us a personal remark, a personal message, what do you expect to happen now in the immediate future and maybe the more remote future? In regards to, let's look to the future, if that could be our final. But I asked you not to ask questions, so no, you will not ask a question, no. No, there have been enough interruptions, no. You can apologize. You can ask me later any questions you want. Just ask me later. I'm sorry, I can't hear the speaker from the audience. Look, I'm going to ask you to stop. No, please don't be rude. You've interrupted. I've asked you not to continue. Your question is not in relation to what we're talking about today. Israel is struggling to maintain its security, and struggling to get out of this war. But the question of anti-Semitism is not relevant to this particular session. And we determine in this conference what is the issue to be spoken about, and that's not part of this session. Amos, I think the most important thing that needs to be done now is to determine a date for elections. That is the beginning of Israel's recovery. Without elections, we cannot recover. We cannot have the day after. We cannot get out of the crisis. We have to have the early elections. And it doesn't have to be tomorrow morning. And please don't tell me there's a war. We can be determined for January or December or whatever. But it must be determined. Elections must be set so that we can bring Israel to a point of decision. That's first. We must end with a trade deal for the hostages and end this war. We have to have an agreement with the Saudis, and through that to try to recover and to recover our deterrence capabilities. Another thing, we have to manage our relations and recover our relations with the Americans. We can't be dependent on the US on the one hand, accept their weapons, embrace President Biden when it comes here, and on the other hand, attack him when he doesn't send us exactly what we want, exactly as we wanted. This is not the way to conduct things. We cannot manage these strategic difficulties with Iran and other matters without having the US at our side as our colleagues, as our comrades. And I don't understand where we're taking Israel-US relations in these last few months. I don't understand it. This must be managed. These three things must be addressed. And through that, maybe we'll have hope for a better future. You're asking me what next? We have to reboot Israel. Everything that's being said, nothing is working. Every day we wake up, we see another title in the newspapers, another scandal about the submarines now. Yesterday, everything that's going wrong. Look, I said this last year, ministries are ineffective. There's no government ministry that is working. Until you appoint somebody, it takes forever. There are replacements and substitutes. We are clutching the Israeli economy in both hands. Through the good work relations and labor relations that we have with the trains and with the industry, we are holding Israel's economy in our own hands. And please, we need help. So for the benefit of the state of Israel, we have to look at Israel's long-term interest. And with all of the critiques that I have to manage the Histadrut, manage all of the workers, and manage the fact that the economy has to keep running. with that powerful message, with that powerful message to us all. Thank you, Arnon Bar-David, and we will meet yet again, and now we break. Thank you.